Hi, welcome to the Artificial Intelligence podcast with Dr. Ziggy. I'm Dr. Ziggy, and today's guest is Father Olek, a Catholic priest of 5 years?
3.
3 years? Yeah, wow, you're even fresher than I remembered. So you're like fresh off the boat pretty much.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So Father Olek and I, we go way back. Like I was trying to think how long it's been since we've known each other, but I think it's been like 30 something years because I've known you since you were like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, so no, it has. I don't remember the moment we met, but
I don't remember it either. But like over 30 years, yeah. So there's a bit of nepotism happening with me,
the Catholic Church.
That's right. That's right. So me inviting Father Ollie is not because he's the best, but because of contacts. So I've promoted you to the Catholic Church in a nutshell.
Mutual enrichment.
Mutual enrichment, right? And then I'll go on your YouTube channel.
Follow each other.
That's right. We've started off well. All right, anyway, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. So, Catholic priest, like Dr. Ziggy said, or Zizi.
Zizi is my nickname that I've grown up with here in Adelaide. I don't use it outside of Adelaide because I got busted once. I had a friend from Adelaide visiting me in France, and he started calling me Zizi. And Zizi in French means Willy, little Willy.
Dr. Willy.
Yeah, Dr. Willy. So I was like, no, not in France, man. I'm not Zizi in France. Yeah, so Ziggy's my outside of Adelaide. Yeah,
because it's your initials, isn't it?
Yeah. So
that's where it came.
That's where I got it from. Yeah, year 3, I remember we had to draw our initials and stick it up on the wall as like artwork, and then someone saw it and they said, Zizi, we're going to call you that from now on. So yeah.
Makes trying to say your actual.
Oh yeah, no. Hence why I'm Ziggy. Hence why I'm Ziggy. Anyway,
So Catholic priest, 3 years. Born in Poland, so that's the Polish background, but grew up here in Adelaide. Studied in Melbourne for 7 years, so in the seminary. So we do to become a priest. 7 years study philosophy, theology, which was great. I enjoyed it, and last 4 years I've been in Mount Gambier and now based back in Adelaide. So loving it here. Good to be back. So yeah.
Mount Gambier is on the far east of South Australia, of our state of South Australia. So it's a small city. It's now town.
30,000.
Yeah, 30,000. Yeah. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Blue Lake.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. All right, so you mentioned philosophy, theology. We're here to talk about AI. I wanted to get you in here to talk about AI from the perspective of a Catholic priest. Now, that is massive. When it comes to AI and religion and philosophy and theology, so we could go in all directions. We could go talk about existential questions. We could talk about ethical questions. How do we make large language models ethical and aligned with our intentions? How do we build data centers ethically? All these kinds of things. So I thought I'd start with the more existential pastoral question.
Yeah, sure.
Let's try this. And when I ask you, have you, because it's a hot topic. Or AI, it's everywhere. Everyone is talking about it. Have you encountered more people in your parishes and in your ministerial work asking questions about themselves and their place in the world, what the purpose is with this advent of AI and people starting to, talk about it so much?
Yeah, certainly. Like a lot of parishioners and people I come into contact with regards to work, with regards to education, the question of trust.
Education, so you teach religious education.
So we've got kind of responsible for 3 different schools. So I come in touch with teachers, not on a daily basis, but conversations with teachers, parents of students. This morning I caught up with a teacher and the topic of AI came up.
Wow, yeah.
With marking papers and that question, the moral question comes in there.
Well, let's talk about the more existential stuff. We'll talk about the moral in a second. So do people ask you about, what's our place now in the world? I've noticed this myself. My students, I teach in a secular, non-religious institute, but I've noticed people discussing these kinds of questions themselves now. So are we machines? You know, like what differentiates us from machines? And arguing from a non-religious perspective is hard to answer these questions, but I've got you in here to sort of see what you're taking, how you deal with this question as a priest and the questions. So these questions do come up?
They do, yeah. But there's often within the context of trepidation and fear for, that anthropological question of what does it mean to be human in this context? And will that, machines take us over? And so people in the pews are asking these questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of questions and what's your response? Let's try to narrow down some questions that you've encountered, and then what have you
suggested? So I'll try and, this isn't a particular example, but a generalization of a whole heap of examples kind of coming together would be, basic question, is AI good or not?
Okay.
And my kind of response is AI good or not, and what does it mean in our understanding of being human?
Yeah.
So I kind of go back to biblically this idea of the image of God, that we image God, and that kind of grounds our understanding of human dignity, and personal relationship and so forth.
Yeah. So because our listeners are secular, what do you mean by God's image, and what?
Sure. So I suppose the way we act in the world reflects an understanding of something transcendent in each person. So, which our laws, I think, reflect that. So, if you look, law kind of presupposes people are responsible for their own actions, I would argue. And even the way this conversation is conducted, there's a difference between you and the table or the cup. You draw responsibility from me, and there's something in that word responsibility, the ability to respond, that has a claim on my attention at the very least. And then I'm just trying to grapple kind of us phenomenologically with what image of God means, and I think we can trace it existentially. How I act in the world reflects that there's something in you that is distinct and unique in comparison with other objects in this room even. So, and that your presence, your existence claims my attention.
Okay.
So I'm responsible to you. So I'm either kind of doing that well or not. There's a value judgment there, which is not in with regard to my relationship to the cup.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Now, I'd say mythologically in the Bible, that's described as the image of God. There's a divine spark within you that calls forth something from me, which the cup doesn't. So that's kind of maybe an ambiguous way of trying to grapple with this idea of image of God. So that's how I understand it, that my actions reveal something unique about your presence. Yeah,
this is a very phenomenological take, and I think you're talking the personalism of John Paul II.
Yes.
I can smell that out there. Yeah. So the way that I would frame it is in the Bible it says that we are created in the image and likeness of God, and that kind of means that we, as it's been traditionally interpreted and understood, is that we are created with an intellect which gives us understanding and free will.
Yes, yep.
So these are things that make us uniquely human as opposed to anything else in the world, including machines.
Yes.
The one thing that I find hard, and we might expand on this, is that this understanding that we are unique in the world, that we do have free will, that we do have proper understanding, centers on information that has been given to us outside of reason. So it's not something that we can get to with our own intellect, with philosophy on its own. We kind of have to what we in the church say revelation or the Bible. Right? So So this is what I find hard when I lecture artificial intelligence, and I get people coming and asking me existential questions, and they're saying, well, we're just machines, aren't we? Data goes in, and we act according to the data.
Yes.
And we are fed with food, which is our battery, and whatever. And in a way, like, in that sense, phenomenologically, which means what it looks like rather than what it is. So it looks like we might be machines. And this is where you kind of need that additional source of information to assist you in finding your place in this world, right? So, and yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think one of the problems is in the understanding, like you mentioned, the image of God is reflected in intellect and will. And I think one of the problems is what we understand by the intellect. They reminded me of a T.S. Eliot quote, where's the wisdom we've lost to knowledge, where's the knowledge we've lost to information?
Okay.
And so I think our intellectual capacities have been reduced to data processing.
Yeah.
Which is why, therefore, then you can say, well, we're not, in fact, computers are better than humans in that regard, if you think intellect is reduced to that level.
Yeah. So on that, I always tell my students this. This is my sort of adage. Machines operate on the level of knowledge. We operate on the level of knowledge and understanding.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
I remember.
Yeah. We've talked about that.
We have, and it's stuck with me, actually.
I can't. Yeah. So you're gone.
Yeah. So, and I think at the moment I'm reading a book. It's 2009, I think. Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary.
Okay.
And I was listening to some podcasts that he does, and he makes, he talks about the difference between the divided brain. He asks 3 questions, basically. Why is the brain divided? Why is it asymmetrical? And why does the connecting tissue, the corpus callosum, mainly function as an inhibitory organism, I don't know what you call it, rather than connectivity, if the brain is all about connections. And he describes that the kind of modern world, it's a generalization, but the modern world acts as if it has right brain problems.
Yeah.
That we're very left brain heavy, which deals with focus, with dealing with detail, which deals on the particular and the breakdown of, I suppose, analysis into bits of information. And he says, well, the right brain is kind of, right side of the brain is as important to deal with, deals with context, deals with the whole picture. And I think there's something to it in how we approach technology and AI. I think that we've lost that capacity of the right side of the brain to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And to see the world organically rather than mechanistically. He makes an interesting point. He says, what's the difference between a machine and human being? He says, well, a basic kind of point of departure is you can turn a machine off.
Yeah.
Turn it on again later. You can't do that with a human being.
Yeah. I always give that example too. Yeah. You can reset it.
Yeah. What else would you say differences between a machine and a human being? Because I'm quite interested. After I heard this, it's actually really.
I've got you in here. I'm not the one. I'm not the one on the stand. Judge, jury, executioner here. Look, it depends on the question. So, I mean, I try to pin something down that is very human, like love, right? And I also try to pin something down that is very human, like human presence as well. So I always say that machines are taught to imitate us, right? Yeah. They're taught to imitate our intelligence. They're taught to imitate love. They're taught to imitate emotions, and they're taught to potentially imitate presence. But they can't replace it. And there's times where perhaps, as I'm talking to my students, you might have been so lonely, and you've played or you've talked to a chatbot, or you've played games and you've interacted with NPCs and games and whatever, and you just don't get that fulfillment. And then your friend comes, or you just bump into. I had a moment in my life where I was locked away for 2 weeks because I was really, really sick in an apartment when I was living in Warsaw, working there. And I craved human presence so much that when I finally got well enough to go downstairs and into the courtyard, and I bumped into this old lady, I was just overjoyed that I could say hello to her. Right. And it's just, I was so starved of human presence that I needed to say hello to her and for her to respond back with a smile, or in Poland it wouldn't have been a smile. It was just like,
and the
thinking that some weirdos run downstairs trying to embrace an old lady in Warsaw. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I focus on with my students, just that human element. Because everyone's got a story of a human element where a soul can touch another soul, and you just know that a machine can't do that, right? You can imitate it, or you can sort of in a way you can sort of fool yourself into thinking, or in a way it can touch you because it can say things that are truthful. Because truth on its own, it doesn't matter who says it or where it's written down or whatever, truth on its own can touch you, but if a human being says it, and this is a good segue actually to another question I was gonna ask you. I was asked this on a podcast, on a separate podcast, that I was in the seat. I was in the seat, that's right. I was in the hot seat. And somebody asked me this question, is it okay for a priest to get AI to write their sermon or their homily? So what's your take?
Well, I must confess I do. I don't know if it's a right thing or not. But, so
do you get it to write your whole thing?
No, generally I'll punch something. No, I'll get something punched in. Like I'll often get maybe a few ideas.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to ask as precise a question. I mold it.
So you work with it.
I work with it. So I'll have maybe 3 points I want to make. Then write a Catholic homily for this kind of occasion involving these 3 points. Pumps it back, copy paste, re-edit. Yeah. Bang. So that's. Yeah. Look, I don't know if that's right or not.
Well, let's put it this way. In academia, you'd get a fail. Yeah. Because you've got ChatGPT to do your homework, right? To do your essay. But no. I mean, it makes sense. And this is what my response was to the question. I said, look, we can use AI as a tool, and the truth is the truth. And if AI tells me the truth and I speak the truth from the pulpit, which I don't, but if I were a priest, then the truth is the truth. And what I said is, what's most important is that I make that myself.
Yes.
And that I put that and I live that and I put life into that truth, and then that life I can pass on to other living human beings. AI is not a living entity. It is software running on a machine. There's no life. It imitates life, etc., but it's no life. But the truth, this is another thing that the soul gives us, an understanding gives us, is that we can put life, bring life to words, to things. I mean, I don't think an AI could deeply hurt you, right? Whereas a human can, because you can bring life to words and cut you, right? Whereas even if an AI does get to know you really, really well, it can hurt you because it can work out your psychological weaknesses. It's getting really, really good at that in framing your questions to tailor to your psychological makeup. But deep down, only another soul can really, really hurt you or enrich you, enliven you.
And I suppose that kind of goes back to that. I remember a distinction. I mean, this was made between humanity and other animals, that an animal is their nature. This is kind of more like metaphysical language. A human has their nature, an animal is their nature. So we've got the capacity to go against it, which means to hurt.
Yeah.
It will
free will.
Free will. Yeah. So the capacity to hurt someone in a paradoxical way reveals our dignity.
Yeah.
Like that we're in command of what we're doing, that it's not pure instinct.
Yeah.
So there is something about that reveals
and once again, like the scientists, like I live with scientists like 24/7. They would say that a machine can do that as well, but it's imitating that.
That's it. Yeah. And I think
it's such an important distinction because we fall into the trap of what's called anthropomorphizing machines. They work off of second-hand data. So they work off, we have an experience and we write it down, we put it into data, and then they take that experience from the written down, the second-hand information, and they don't actually have that experience. They haven't actually got it themselves. They didn't actually get it in the organic way. But anyway,
I mean, that's my understanding that it imitates human nature and is therefore dependent upon it. But the example you gave would say a large language model, the way, it can only come to know us better if we pay it attention. It's dependent upon us feeding it. And so my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, that a computer cannot develop the rules for its own existence from itself.
Depends what you mean by from itself. All right. So, and what do you mean by its existence as well?
That's a good point. Yeah. The fact that it's there, it requires input outside of itself.
Yeah.
To feed off, which is the imitation point.
Yeah. So it needs data.
It needs data. Yeah.
So it needs data. Well, we could argue also the opposite is that we ourselves need data.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point.
But the thing is that there is something fundamentally different from us organic creatures rather than software. Maybe to sum up what we've just been saying, because we've gone astray. There is something fundamentally, maybe instinctively we know it, but if we want to rationalize it, use reason to somehow show us logically that is the case, I think, from my experience anyway, outside of religion, outside of the Bible, it's really hard to use philosophy to show that is the case, because you can always fall back on the old argument from Enlightenment philosophy of empiricism or what's the other word I'm after? Materialism, right? That nothing outside of the material world exists. Nothing that can't be measured exists, but nothing that can't be. Nothing in the immaterial realm exists. Everything that exists, we can see, we can touch, we can measure. We can measure scientifically. And if you take that as an axiom in your life and in your in your trying to rationalize your existence, it's impossible. I think anyway.
Yeah, I think you can't. I don't think you can do much for that person if they've closed. I mean, because it's not a scientific claim; it is a philosophical claim, and so you've got to take a step back to be able to break that frame.
Which is kind of sad, because we're really making ourselves into one-dimensional creatures, aren't we? Whereas if you don't take that as your starting point, suddenly this whole 3 dimensions, not just 2 dimensions, but it just explodes. That there's a realm outside of the scientific realm that looks down on everything, including science, right?
Including
science.
I think that's right. Like when you were speaking of this idea of presence, like the importance of human presence as opposed to an objective presence, it reminded me of an article I read by Yves Lacoste, who's a postmodern 20th French philosopher. And it's a simple point, but I think it's quite powerful. He says, what's the difference between, presence and kind of an objective presence? And he says, well, an objective presence draws perception, but a real presence draws affectivity as well.
Okay.
And so
explain affectivity.
So affectivity, the idea of the heart that which kind of result in biological differences. So I suppose that example of love, in the presence of a loved one, there are your heartbeat increases, that you start sweating, that there's a movement which is more than just perception. There's the affect.
It changes you.
No
matter what.
So
it changes you quite profoundly sometimes, right?
So, and I think that's kind of what then frames science. I mean, you look at the great scientists, they all, wonder and imagination is actually the source then of a lot of scientific theories.
Yeah.
I mean, Einstein's a brilliant one in terms of that moment of insight or intuition. It's not the result of often labouring at a syllogism or that the aha moment comes. It's something outside of that, and I think this is what you're trying to get at. That there's science is ensconced in something bigger.
Yeah.
But if you don't
it's part of a larger reality. Yeah, it's part of a larger reality, a beautiful reality, a really, really beautiful reality. Yeah. But it's hard to
communicate that.
It's hard if you talk in a secular environment with especially people from different backgrounds as well. I mean, most of my students are Indian, so of course there's the Indian part of. There's the Christian part of India, but most are other religions. So even they have a different kind of mentality, and it's just it's different, and it's difficult to talk. But but I think most of my students, from my experience anyway, they feel that there's more, that there's more to our life, to our reality, to our existence than just matter, right?
Yes.
Than just what we can measure, what we can touch, right? You just feel it. You just know. But that's not scientific, right? You can't say I feel it, therefore it's right. Well, I feel it, therefore it's right.
Well, it's funny, but one of the things that has helped me with and paradoxically, Hegel, I think, onto it here. He says, to recognise a limit, you've got to stand beyond it. And so it's interesting, like we've framed and categorised so many things. But then to say that that's all there is a paradoxical claim, because you've actually got to stand beyond it to recognise the limit. And so I think that's the domain of, I would say, transcendence, what we come up against when we recognise our own ignorance, or we've come to the limit of our knowledge of what we know. I mean, people then respond, well, it's in process. But even that idea of process implies something beyond what I already know now.
But there's always a response to whatever you give. That's my experience. If you talk to scientists, hardcore materialists, empiricists, they've always got it's just chemical reactions in your brain that make you think it's there's something transcendent, but really it's not. It was still two-dimensional.
Well, the paradox. I mean, the paradox about that is, how do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can't prove either way. They can't prove. That's the axiom.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's their start. That's the principle. It's the starting point. And I guess we can say that faith or the Bible or theology, as we would say, would be our starting point, as well as reason, as well as theology and philosophy together. It's just what you choose as your starting. Each person has their own path, their own way to reach that correct starting point. I think.
Yeah, and I think, but I still, it is hard. Like, I think
it is hard to rationally show that, but
you can hint at it. I mean, one of the things that I do like is this kind of, from Chesterton. So G.K. Chesterton wrote a book, Orthodoxy, and he's got chapter 2 of this book is called The Madman. And he says how to argue with a rationalist. It's brilliant. It's the best kind of
he's great
image.
He's one of my favourites.
He's good. And he says it is really hard to argue with this materialist scientists, rationalists, reductivists, because their circle is perfect.
Yeah.
And he says, for example...
That's a very good way of putting it. The circle is perfect.
Yeah. He says the circle is perfect. And he said, for example, the madman, or he calls it the madman, he says, if I'm Jesus Christ and you say, oh, you're mad, it's like, well, I'm actually correct, because that's what they would have said to the real Jesus. Like, you are mad. And he says, and it's a good example, because, that's what they would have said to the real Jesus. So he says, well, how do you go about this argument? So he says, well, your circle is perfect. It's just a small circle.
Yeah.
There's more to reality.
Yeah. That's outside. It's kind of like you're one-dimensional rather than three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
I think But I think that's the thing, right? Like, the circle is perfect. It makes sense. But what if there is more? You can't prove that there is or there isn't. But if you do accept it, suddenly you just start breathing again.
Yes.
Like, I know so many scientists that have just these existential crises where they sit there and they're like shaking because they feel as though they've rationalized the fact that there's no free will. They're just, chemical thingy, and they're shaking because that's not their real self. They're not living to their fullness, right?
And I think like intellectual humility is actually really important. Well, in science, full stop. And that idea, I mean, the word humility comes from humus, which means ground, which is the
hummus.
Hummus.
Makes your breath stink.
Yeah, we need more of it.
Yeah, we need more hummus, mate. No one ever went wrong with more hummus. Where are the crackers anyway?
That's it. But that sense, I mean, the idea is that being in touch with who you are, and humility is to know yourself, really, which is, I suppose, the Socratic thing, Socratic question as well. That I am, well. McIntyre kind of, traditionally, humans have been described as rational creatures, rational beings. But I like Alistair McIntyre's...
who passed away recently, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, yeah.
Great.
93,
90s, yeah. Amazing mind.
Yeah, but he just, we're dependent rational minds. And I quite like that. Then there's, in the same way that you mentioned, tech is dependent upon us or imitates us, we are dependent upon God, is what I would say. Or, I mean, even our parents, like, we didn't make ourselves. I mean, Aristotle says, humans don't make humans to be human. Like, there's a framing of our freedom, which expresses our dependence, which expresses a limit. And then the question is, well, is that a good thing or not? And I would say it is. But that's a biblical statement. That creation is good. And that's an axiom, I would say, creation is better than destruction. Creation is a good thing. And I think that's what we've forgotten.
Yeah.
Its existence is good.
Yeah. To use Heidegger, we're looking at existence now with the technological mindset. How can I use nature rather than nature talking to me and inspiring me and making, I think Heidegger gave the example, Martin Heidegger gave the example of the river. Back in the day, you'd sort of, there'd be people who would have the god of the river, and they would sit there by the river, and the river would affect them, make their souls become have awe, have wonder at the power of water, whatever. And nowadays we try to tame it. We put bridges over it. We look at it from a different the technocratic mindset. Right? Gestell, I think, from memory.
That's it. Yeah, well done. Yeah, the standing reserve. That's it. We look at a forest and we see lumber.
That's right. Yeah. Lumber and tables. Rather than the beautiful tree.
Yeah, exactly. Even humans, like, we're human resources now.
Dude,
HR.
Don't get me started about HR.
So, but that's the Gestell, the standing reserve.
Yes, we've changed, haven't we? Our mindset has changed to. I think Heidegger's right that in the medieval times they had a different perception of reality, and therefore, if the phenomenon of artificial intelligence would have come 800 years ago, at that particular time when people had a different mindset looking at nature, we wouldn't be having this discussion, I think, about whether machines can have consciousness, because they would see it in its rightful place in reality, right? As where is it in terms of plants, animals, and humans, and God, or trees, and all these kinds of things. They would see it in the right place and be like, no, this thing can't have consciousness. It can't. It's not alive. It's. I think.
Yes, that's a really good point. I think that's right. Like, we become, and he kind of critiques modern tech as, it's abstract, artificial. Like, and to abstract means to cut out of one's context. And with the medieval hierarchy of being gave context to reality.
Yeah.
It unfolded
Aristotelian.
Even further back. So everything is contextualized in relationship. I think we are discovering this more, though, particularly in physics, that like relation is what reality is, even at the subatomic level, that there's, well, matter and energy are interchangeable. So there's something a little more ambiguous than we thought was there. And I think, what are we actually looking at? Are we looking at stable atoms, or are we looking at relationships between things? And I think in a certain sense, we are regaining that relational hierarchical understanding, but
I hope so. I think so. But Heidegger was big onto this as well. He didn't like metaphysics because it took being away from its context. It analysed the essence of things outside of their relationship in the world. It had a bigger context. So he criticised medieval metaphysics anyway about that. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, so circling back then, all right, that was a lengthy. We talked about hummus.
Yeah,
we talked about. I just came back. We talked about this just before we started recording. I just got back from a conference in Rome about artificial intelligence, and one thing that I noticed, and you mentioned this as well, is that there's palpable fear. Amongst people, and especially amongst people that work in the field of AI, and I really felt that. I don't know this fear that I saw. I think it's based. I think it's an American kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong. They're in the middle of this storm. Let's call it right. They've got big tech. Pumping them with all this information. Everything's happening so quickly. They're in the middle of this. They're a big capitalist machine as well. Coming from an outsider from Australia, I was like taken aback at how not everyone, but I was taken aback at how you could sense it. They're scared, right? They were kept on saying we're cooked.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we're cooked.
Wow.
There's a famous video going around that 99% of jobs will be wiped out within the next few years. All these other predictions are happening. I don't hold that opinion. I don't think we're cooked. AI is a disruptive technology. It is shaking things up. Things are changing. But how would you respond to that kind of feel? Let's say that even if we are cooked, let's say that 99% of jobs were to be taken, because no one could have predicted the state of AI as it is now. Even I'm in shock. I have no idea where it came from, and I'm sitting there going, "Wow!" I started AI in 2004, so I've been there for 21 years. And 20 years ago, we were doing stupid stuff. It was like theoretical. AI was theoretical. I remember my friends telling me not to go and study AI because it was so theoretical.
Yeah,
it was a waste of time.
Wow.
It was a waste of time. There were very, very few projects that were actually making it out into industry, into the real world, that were bringing in money. And all my friends in IT, software engineers were like, don't do it, man. Like, it's a waste of time. Look at it now.
You defied the odds.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. And I have more experience than most people.
I was going to say, well, if that's the state that it was when you were studying it.
Yeah. But okay, so let's say, no one could have foreseen this.
Sure.
Nobody. And it's such a short amount of time as well. ChatGPT came out, 3 years ago? And it's crazy how. So let's say, they're scared because they see where we were, where we are, and the trajectory. If it keeps going, we're cooked. We're cooked. Like they're saying, humanoid robots are going to take everything. Even if they're not going to be conscious, they're still going to be imitating our intelligence so much that they're just going to run amok. So to somebody, let's say someone comes and says they're shaking, they're scared, existential crisis to a certain significant degree. What would you say to them as a Catholic priest?
Yeah, that's a really.
Let's say that they're not Catholic, they're not religious, and then let's say what would you answer if they were Catholic, if they were religious?
That's a really good. Well, in my response would be to try and hear them out, listen to them. And that relationship itself is actually really important. Like you were saying before, the yearning for a human interaction. I think that encounter can actually be healing.
Yeah, because you talk about it, right? You talk about it. People need to. We don't talk enough.
No, that's it. Yeah,
we don't, right? No. We don't. We're on social media all day in front of our screens, and we just don't talk enough about what's affecting so
Yes.
much. And anyway.
And that's like, I'd actually I'd hope I would just take the time.
Yeah.
Like, not give them, 4-point plan, but actually listen to them and spend time.
You want to Bible bash them.
So, no, exactly. Well, I'd ask basic question, well, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And already I think that would change the frame. Like, well, you have an existence that is outside of this. That's a ray of hope already, that your whole life in this interaction is not dependent upon AI. So that's already wow, like, because it's a colonizing force, but if you can show that it hasn't colonized this interaction.
Yeah.
Well, that's already a ray of hope, I think. So it'd be this, I'd hope the starlight setting, just being present. Would be a first step that I'd try to be conscious of. Okay, well, what's your story? Who are you? What's your name? And then maybe try and feedback, well, this is all outside of AI. Your name, was that from a chat, was that produced by ChatGPT? Like, is that an AI product? It's like, well, no, we're, try to prod these questions that there is a world outside of this and it is human and it's in the experience. I suppose it's where the phenomenological side of things comes in. But I just hope that would form a relationship with that person.
Anchor the person more in reality rather than their fear.
That's it. Yeah.
And then you might be able to start thinking more clearly.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I think a lot of it is the strategy is divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Is where does fear come from? Well, when we're afloat at sea, or the experience you gave, you're locked up in your room. Like, it's where we've, Hannah Arendt says, totalitarian regimes are, so it's a long one, but totalitarian regimes are mass organizations of atomized individuals.
Okay.
So it's a paradoxical kind of, you got the totalitarian regime is actually individuals breaking apart. And so fear enters when you're afloat at sea and you have no anchor and you're not grounded. And so, how do you counter that? Is by forming some kind of anchor, some kind of relationship, and it's got to be human. And so you get these two kind of polar, a totalitarian regime from the top, the AI, which instills fear, this thing that we don't know what it is. It's kind of hidden. It's like the Wizard of Oz hidden behind the mask. And me, left awash at sea, instilled by fear, not being able to do anything. What's lost is all the kind of intermediary factors of family, soccer club, church, national clubs, all these within which our identity is cocooned. But with the loss of all of those things, we've lost our sense. Well, what it results is really totalitarianism and nihilism, or just atomization of the individual. So if someone came to me, I'd try to acknowledge, first of all, well done for acknowledging your fear. Like, to come, and for someone who's afraid, I think stepping outside to try and encounter another human being is a courageous act. So I try to affirm.
And they have hummus.
Yes. Well done.
Anyways, I have to throw that in, sorry.
And so what I'd say is, give me some. Yeah. Don't keep it all for your
cracker.
Yeah.
I apologise.
I don't know if that kind of helps.
Yeah.
It doesn't give an answer, really, but I try to acknowledge, well done, give them kind of a sense of satisfaction in what they've already done, and the courage that they've done to reach out. Second is, who are you?
Yeah. So where's the hope then? Because obviously you want to instill hope in them. Where's the hope? I guess just being grounded in reality and being surrounded by goodness.
Yeah, being surrounded by goodness, and the hope, I would say, is, as a Catholic priest, I'd say ultimately Jesus Christ. So I'd try to, what that looks like in their life would depend upon where they've come from.
Yeah, okay.
So in the back of my mind, that's my thing, is, I'm trying to be Jesus Christ to them. At the very least, give them a good experience. This is what I'd be thinking in my own consciousness of when they would come to me. But the hope is that you do have some kind of agency. Like, tell me your story, and then I'd try to frame it, well, this is outside of AI, and you are responsible for A, B, C. Therefore, you are not under the control completely of this thing. That there is and so you can make something of your life, which is not dependent upon this. In fact, you can enhance your life in such a way through this if used appropriately under a proper kind of telos, and that's where the hope.
Yeah, telos is in
the end, the goal, the purpose of your existence. Yeah. Which like I said, is Jesus Christ is God. But step by step, what will they get out of that? Well, at the very least, I'd say, well, that was a good experience.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yes. And it might lead to more conversations, more chats. Right?
That's it. And because I think I wouldn't want to solve the problem, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because I don't want to give it...
We're assuming you can't. We're assuming that AI, let's just hypothetically, let's say that it does keep growing and start getting scarier and scarier. You can't, but you would still want to help the person to live a life away from fear. Right?
Yes, exactly. And I would say love drives out all fear, John says. So in the Bible, it says, love drives out all fear. Well, what is love?
Yeah, where is the love in that person's life, and try to
construct something.
Construct something from that. Yeah. So then let's say a parishioner comes to you, and they're Christian. So therefore, how would you frame the answer to them?
So be more explicit with Jesus Christ is the hope that we are saved by him. And I suppose I would use this expression with the other person. It's an image from St. Francis of Assisi. He said that all the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. And I think that's quite powerful. You're in this, you feel like this fear and this darkness, but don't underestimate the power of lighting a single candle. And in fact, paradoxically, one candle shines more brightly than 1,000 lit candles, in terms of the effect that it has. And so, it's dark at the moment, but don't underestimate, the kindness that you share with someone or the prayer that you offer up. That is lighting a candle in the darkness. And also to the question of expectation, in a certain sense, from a Christian perspective, the understanding of a fallen world, that we can't expect it to be perfect. And there are always going to be opposing forces at play.
Yeah. And there's always sin, there's always evil.
There's always sin, there's always evil.
For example, nepotism in the country.
And we just play to our strengths. Mum always said, develop your talents. So I think that's, to be good, you need a good philosophy of evil. I think that's actually really important. So I suppose this, again, with the other person, is to develop a philosophy of evil for them. That, I think, because a lot of our disappointments comes from misplaced expectations.
That's interesting.
And so I think that's really important, that, the world isn't perfect, but if I expect it to be perfect, then the experience itself is going to instill a lot of fear and disappointment and heartache. So I think the question of expectations is really important.
Yeah.
And that's a story, that's a biblical narrative, that is. The world is good. It's a fallen world we exist in, but it's been redeemed by Christ. So that's a frame I would keep for the Christian person.
There's always hope. I guess I don't mean to proselytize. I don't mean to preach or anything like that, but I do count myself lucky, having faith in that. I'm just not as fearful of the future because I believe that there's more after this life. So so it's kind of, even if we are cooked, during COVID, even when we were locked down, we were one of the most locked down countries in the world. Even then, I was like, all right, we're cooked, right? But it sucks being locked up in the room. But I'm just less fearful about everything. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not scared.
No,
It's just that it's not affecting me as much
Yeah, and that hope is so important.
It is, right?
Like,
it is.
And also the other thing that
and I don't mean to judge anyone that doesn't have faith in it. I'm just saying that it's personally, it's just.
Yeah, absolutely.
It helps. It helps.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the scientist that goes into an experiment hopes that there's an answer to the question. Like, if there was no hope of a conclusion to the argument, then that stifles movement. Then what's the point? But also the other thing that I've been thinking about more recently is historical perspective actually really helps. Knowing history, because I think...
Oh, this is good, yeah.
I think we can become, going back to that atomized individual, that's even temporally, like we've lost a large sense of our, we've lost our historical sense in large degree in our memory. And I've just finished The City of God, which is a book by St. Augustine. It's a great book. So,
like that thing.
It's a doorstopper. If you want to buy a present for Christmas, that's a doorstopper. But so this was written at the fall of the Roman Empire in 400. So Roman Empire fell in 410. St. Augustine writes this book over 15 years after that, and it's interesting just to see how it's the end of a world.
Yeah. Well, for him and for anyone in the Roman Empire, that was the end of the world.
That's the end.
They knew. That's all that they knew, and it seemed as though this empire was indestructible, was going to be eternal, and then suddenly it's gone.
Yes.
It's just gone. Right?
And so
and people were lamenting around him.
Yes,
they were lamenting around him. So he sits down and writes
this book over 15 years. And so, I mean, that was in terms of, there's a few historical events that really struck me. So that one, the Black Death in the 14th century, where I think a third of Europe dies, 25 million people are dead through the bubonic plague. And I'm thinking, wow, and then 20th century, World War I, World War II. And look, these are, I don't know, just in my mind, events that have happened in the past that in comparison to what we're going through...
They were cooked.
Yeah. And yet the world is still here.
Yeah.
And I think, and going back to the importance of humility, I mean, I think Richard Dawkins says this is the arrogance of hindsight. And I think that's right, that why do we think we're so special? That's something that I wrestle with. And it was interesting, went on a retreat fairly recently in Bendigo for a week. As priests, we have to do a retreat every week. And this was just a self-run one. And the main message I got, through prayer and reflection, was, I'm not as important as I think I am. And it was liberating. It was actually really powerful because, all these things have happened in the world today, in the past historically. I'm born, I'll live, I'll die, and the world will go on.
But you're not nothing.
Well, but I'm not nothing, But and that's where the hope comes in, and that's fundamental. Is the hope?
So it is fundamental. It is fun. I mean, scientists around me can laugh at me all they want. At least I have that, right? At least I have that. They can call me the madman, the cracker,
the cracker with the hummus,
All right, one more question. We've been going for quite a while. One more question. You got time?
Yeah.
One more question. Then, so there was this New Polity. You know New Polity?
Yes. Yeah.
They had an episode. It's a podcast run from. I think they're still in Steubenville. I think. And they had one episode. I didn't watch all of it, but I could be wrong in my conclusion. But I don't think I am, and I apologise if I am. But the discussion was centred around: is it morally okay to hold conversations with a chaplain? That was the whole. And the premise is that you are depriving yourself. If you don't go and talk to a human being, you're depriving yourself of something good. That could eventuate between you and a friend. So you can grow in friendship. Your virtues can grow. You can you can have a fight and then make up, and then somehow that strengthens your relationship. You don't build the community around you if you focus on talking to a chatbot rather than going out and talking to another human. So that was the premise of the thing, and they came to the conclusion that it is morally wrong to talk to a chatbot. And correct, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't agree with the whole thing, but they basically said that he doesn't use AI anymore because he would rather, like turn off his phone and so. What's your take on that?
What's some of the argument do you fall?
Yeah, that's right. Do I turn you off and not invite you onto this podcast again, or do you agree with me?
That's it.
Or do you agree with me? Only people that agree with me can come onto this podcast. Nepotism aside.
That's it. There is a hierarchy.
That's right, mate. That's right.
It's a really good question, but I do appreciate the importance of personal relationships, and they are
there is an element of truth to their argument, right?
Everything we've said now in the last hour has been all about the importance of human relationships, of presence, the distinctiveness of what it means to be human, and so forth, in contrast with machines and so forth. So, paradoxically, I think it's actually putting too much of a stress upon. Maybe too much importance on the chatbot. Maybe that's where they see the danger, and there is a caution around it. And I suppose that my understanding is that they would distinguish between, in terms of technology, that because one response could be, well, is that a blanket argument for all tech that we should have? Because that can be an easy kind of conclusion. If we shouldn't use chatbots. So that we emphasize personal relationships. Does that mean we shouldn't use any technology so we can always focus on the personal relationship? And I think that makes...
Yeah, right. So social media would be out as well because we're not having a one-to-one talk.
Yeah, social media and all kind of...
Emails would be out. Yeah. Well, you could extrapolate, couldn't you?
So I'm wondering how they'd make that distinction. Like, okay, what is distinctive about a chatbot in contrast to these other forms of media?
I guess you can have a proper conversation with a chatbot. I guess this would be the argument. You can have a proper conversation that can actually replace a human being.
Yeah, so that's
whereas with email and whatever, you're still talking to a human being. It's just going through, fiber optic cables or whatnot. Whereas a chatbot, you are actually having a proper conversation, and it's not as enriching as it would be. If you go to the library and talk to a librarian to get you some information that you need or something.
Yeah, so I get I'd still make so when I use ChatGPT, I don't think I'm talking to someone. I see it as an editing thing.
You can't anthropomorphize it, right? It's a tool. That's what I always say. It's a tool, and it's great for getting information and getting work done quickly, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to talk to it like to a human being. I'm going to do it, and I am, I hope, mature enough to realise that I do need to go out of my way to have community life and to have relationships with people, and I have to go out of my way to do it because we live in a very individual world, individual life. We have individual lifestyles where. Previously, it was a natural thing to have community life. Nowadays, so I do have to go out of my way to do it. But no, it's a tool, man. That's why I got angry at that.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't watch it to the end because it kind of it's stuff like that gives religion a bad name. And I think that is grossly disordered to come to that kind of conclusion. It's just breaks common sense in a way, and then. People like that look at these religious people, and then I have to talk to them and say, no, it's not really. They're not wrong. They're not right, and it puts everyone else in a bad light.
Yeah, and I kind of get what they're trying to do.
Yes, there is an element of truth,
and that's what you were saying. Yeah, so there is. But we use a chatbot. It presupposes that one's well-formed, has good relationships with people, like you said, you're intentional about forming community, and that you don't pretend you're talking to someone.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know the effects that the chatbot has on us and on some people, that it has
You have to be emotionally mature.
Yes,
you have to be. Yeah. Which could be why it could be dangerous for younger kids because they can fall into the trap of talking to it like a human being. That's very, very much possible. I can see that. But for adults who are emotionally mature, like, I mean, I think that's just stupid. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry if you ever watch this episode. I apologise, but yeah, I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid to come to that kind of conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to still use.
Yeah. So you agree with me?
Yeah, that's the conclusion. Yeah,
that's all right. So you can come back. You can come
with or without the hummus.
Right. With or without the hummus. I actually don't like hummus.
No, I'll bring it then.
All right, I reckon we'll end
tap out.
We'll tap out and continue it on. I mean, you can talk about this for ages. Right?
Yeah,
The topic is huge. This idea, and this is why I kind of like where AI has gotten to, because now we can talk about these existential questions, right? And we can talk about what's our place in the world, who are we, what's our purpose, and even consciousness. What does that mean? So, can a machine be? What does it mean to be conscious? Let's define what it is, define what it is, and then maybe you go into the question of soul and human soul, and what does it mean? Just massive, like huge topics, and I love it.
Great,
Suddenly, my theoretical work in AI is
paying off.
It's paying off, right? It's paying off. Maybe not with my YouTube channel.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's right. I'm not monetized.
You're hopeful.
I'm hopeful. That's right. I believe. All right. Well, thank you very much for.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, maybe in the future.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See you later, guys. Stay tuned for more.